At least they have what one e-sub up, I believe.
No, so they will they no their E-sub was Bolt. That was the only E-sub. So with Glub
Right.
Glub back, they actually don't lose any bans at all. So this will be EXNL back in full strength here. So this will be the sort of EXNL that we'll be looking at. Oh, hold on 1 second here. They're saying competitive ruling, they lose one. Um, we will take a quick look at that. They're just confirming that here before we can start the. All right, so they do lose one ban here from competitive ruling because they did not submit their replays or match history properly. Last week they lose a ban here in the final, so they will still lose one ban from that, but it's only one ban compared to the four bans they had lost in game one here. So still going to be a huge boon for them. Not to mention, it will be the team that's much more familiar here.
Right. Yeah, as you said, man, it's just even though they have their entire roster back in shape now, they're all here. They still have a lot of things to work on, right? Because they just experienced a brutal game in game one. They will have to keep those in mind and actually use the bans, like what Luna was saying before we headed into intermission.
Yeah, and I mean, not to mention those bands aside, it's going to be a very different look here. Their last minute E sub was MG Boat here previously of MG Nitro, and he's an ADC main. He's not a mid laner, and you saw that in the champions he picked. He picked the Vayne for the mid lane, and certainly that's not a common pick for a reason. It doesn't do great in lane. That's not to say MG Boat didn't play it well. He played it great in Telepass. He did way better than I thought he would actually in lane. But the way they dropped it meant that they had a composition with no magic damage whatsoever. Despite the hyperscaling champions they had with Master Yi, Vayne, and Caitlyn, they were so easy to counter. And on top of that, they just had no pressure in the lanes here. So that meant that Just the Game, who is on a farming jungler, had no protection. And you could see Teemin just repeatedly invading him come the mid
Mm.
game here.
Right, and that's the thing when you put an ADC on autofill because they're not too adjusted laning by themselves, and they gotta worry about two sides. So that's definitely the thing that you have to get or have to know when you are putting an ADC or a solo laner, say like top jungle or ADC, into a mid lane. It's way more difficult, and that's something that MG both just couldn't handle.
For sure. And now they've got Glub Glub back, who is their main mid laner. Was one of the only two people who stayed from the beginning of the split. EXNL did revamp their roster. I believe it was back in week 3 here, and where only Chef Boy and Glub Glub remained on the roster. So we have seen Glub Glub play throughout the season. He's a very, very solid mid laner. Plays the lane well and plays the team fights great as well. And in a way, that was the matchup that should have happened that never happened between EXNL and Seven Men because they did not meet in the regular season. It's the one game that didn't happen here. So that it's the reason why Seven Men's perfect record was marred. And we are now into picks and bans. Once again, it's going to be EXNL on the blue side, Seven Men on the red side. Seven Men had choice of side and they opted to remain on the red side because it worked so well for them here in game one. And looks like EXNOL gonna lose the ban, use the lost ban here as their first ban. We'll use it first rotation. So no ban coming up for EXNOL.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's still the one band that are we were expecting, and yeah, as we see now, we do see that the Kazakhs get taken away, so they're definitely not gonna try to let Exno into a high-paced tempo team comp.
Yeah, and Seven
And
Men looking like they're banning out a lot of assassins last game. I wonder if they'll keep all their bans the same here. It's
yeah, just there's a lot of difference, but unfortunately, that we do see a Vi ban this time around, even though I personally don't think it's a great ban since really didn't do much last game playing the Vi at all.
I mean, That is Teeman's signature champion, and despite the early game going a bit rough for Teeman, and he couldn't quite find any sort of easy
Mm,
gank paths here, in come the mid game, he did exert a lot of control, and just the point and click ultimate from Assault and Battery just makes it such a dangerous champion to give away, especially if you're running a carry yourself like Bears did, where Bears Caitlyn struggled to survive in fights, and we do see the rest of the bans as well as the first pick coming up for EXNL here.
right, right. And the first pick, we do see Volibear. It's such a strong champion still, right? It's just such a strong champion, even since the rework, and I'm still annoyed that they still haven't nerfed it.
I mean, we did see a tiny Volibear nerf last week here. It was enough to hit his win rates in solo queue, nudge it down a little bit here. They did reduce, I believe it was his healing on the Frenzied Maul there as well. I think his base attack speed got slightly lowered, so it slowed down Jungle Volley just the slightest. Doesn't really affect lane volley very much though, and that's what we did see coming out of Chef Boy here. We might be seeing it again potentially, but with that Maokai pickup, nope, it's going to be a I don't even know where that volley's. Probably top lane volley, actually, yeah.
Yeah, most I'll see Maokai. So what's that jungle?
It would be a
Where's that?
support Maokai for Opti here.
I see. I see. I'm still not used to seeing a support Maokai or a top lane volley, since I'm still more of a traditional guy in a sense in terms of drafting. But it's interesting to see. It's quite refreshing. And for 7 men, it's Kane, Ezreal, and the last pick's gonna be Gnar. Interestingly enough, uh, I really don't see too much Gnar recently. One of my main champions, and I'm quite interested to see how Brighton Bush plays Gnar.
For sure. And now, despite having fallen out of favor, it wasn't because of nerfs. He's not received any significant nerfs or buffs in the last little while here. He just sort of fell out of favor. But if you do look at professional play statistics, Nar actually has one of the highest win rates across the LEC, LCK, and the LCS here. So he's still an extremely strong champion. Especially if you're picking into the Volibear with the range here, it's a great pick. When you're in mini Nar form, you can outrange, you can just bully out the Volibear. When Volibear engages on you, you go Mega on him, and suddenly he's now facing an even bigger, furrier monstrosity than he himself is.
Yeah, just Nard, he has a lot of potential in team comps, especially when going aggressive. He does have that game changer ultimate where it just change the entire fight around. I personally experienced it way too many times in the hands of other players, and that's something that EXNL is gonna have to be worried about of Nar.
Oh, and we got baited. That's not a Nar. That's a Vayne, apparently.
Oh
I've
boy!
just been informed. That's a
Wow.
Vayne. So
Okay.
they've got Kane, Ezreal, and Vayne. Are what is with these double ADC compositions coming out tonight from these teams? I was not a fan of it. I mean, MG Boat kind of made it work, but it wasn't ideal. And now 7men's the one running the double ADC here.
Oh boy, that's gonna be very squishy for 7 men. Indeed, it's for Uphouse. It's gonna be kind of interesting to see another ADC, especially when he just fought one just in game one, and it's gonna be interesting how to see how Teeman actually plays around an ADC mid laner.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know where that Vayne is going quite yet. It might still be in the top lane. We have seen Vayne show up in the top lane before, and honestly, it's probably the more comfortable position for it. And it's not going to be mid lane.
So
It's going to be
yeah,
the
it'll be the
Azir
top.
for Alpals in that mid lane, and we've not seen Alpals bust out the Azir for a while, and that might not be an Azir. That's a Nautilus apparently. So lots of problems here with 7men's draft currently. So that is a Kane, Ezreal, Vayne, and Nautilus. That is not an Azir.
What are these picks, man? It shouldn't be this hard.
Yeah,
But okay. I mean, if they did go for that comp, it would still work out pretty well. We need to say that. And for EXNL, it seems like they're not having any problems picking Lux and Kaisa.
yeah, interesting combination here. That Lux Kaisa bot lane, it's going to make them extremely squishy and vulnerable into the Nautilus. And I'm a little concerned here with sort of that Nautilus pickup, because Nautilus is going to be able to just hook either of them. If they hook, it's going to be a kill pretty much right away for the side. Actually, what am I saying? That's not a Lux bot lane. I already said it was Maokai support. So that's Maokai Kaisa bot lane. So it's a Lux in the mid lane, pardon me. So running into Alpelza's Echo here in the mid lane, that's going to be a bit of a dicey proposition.
Well, that's gonna be interesting to see, right? Because they may have a lot of that potential and uh some sort of tankiness that we've not seen in quite a bit, at least for myself. You have the knowledge to start the dive. You have the echo that can just chrono break out of turret aggros, and that's gonna be so difficult for EXNL just to get out of it. And yeah, but on the other hand, you have the Maokai that's a super tanky. Once he starts rolling into the game, you have Olaf that just doesn't care about your dive and will just basically chop everyone up. And it's gonna be hard to say who's gonna be or who has the favor in this game in terms for early game. For late game, it's a little different though.
And we might actually be seeing a redraft here potentially, because the Lux got locked in as a counter to the Azir, and uh, they did not actually want to run it into the Nautilus, it looks like. So we might be seeing a redraft potentially coming out, both teams sorting that out for now. And this finals has been very problem ridden so far, starting late, and now we're having drafting issues. It is a bit of a rough one thus far.
Yeah, really rough. It's something that I didn't haven't experienced in quite a while. It's just problems drafting and stuff. And yeah, it would make a lot of sense if they redrafted, change up their game plan, or they stick with the same couple picks. But yeah, would make a lot of sense. As for now, though, if they were run to these team comps, so there would not be a problem at all if they were to pick Lux and Kai'Sa bot lane into an Ezreal Nautilus. So yeah,
Yeah, and
not
again,
a problem at
that would
all.
probably have been the Maokai Kaisa bot lane. So at least they have a tank there, but I think it's more the issue that they picked Lux as a specific counter to the Azir.
Mm-hmm.
So when Azir isn't being locked in, saying that Lux is a little bit more vulnerable, Lux does do a lot of damage, but is extremely mobile and very vulnerable here. So uh, yeah, I'm guessing they don't want to do that. And just waiting to confirmation from the teams. I don't know what's going on here with the redraft.
Right, and
Okay, and
it's
I am now, I believe, receiving the spec link.
all right, great. So yeah, it's really good that we are possibly going to see the first couple of same picks if they are going to be doing it again up to probably phase 2 picks, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it's either beginning of phase two or end of phase one, because that Nar Vayne pick came in at the end of phase one. So
Hmm.
we'll have to see what happens then. So we will still be seeing some of those original picks: the Ezreal, the Maokai, the Olaf, and the I can't remember the other tank that they picked up here for the side of EXNL, Volibear. So those should still be the same. The bans as well should remain the same. And really things start diverging at the end of round one here.
Yeah, for sure. We should be seeing some things, but for now, let's quickly talk about the first 3 picks of uh, what they picked so far, as we already know. And um, let's get started with Exnol first.
Yeah, so I think EXNL's first three picks, it's a really solid, tanky front line here for themselves. And I think they're fairly safe picks. The only thing I kind of don't like is picking your jungle phase one when you've got that Volibear, because Volibear is a flex pick. We've actually seen in three different lanes here, support, jungle, and top lane. So when you pick a Volibear, it could potentially flex into the top or into the jungle. By picking
Mhm.
the Olaf so early, they give the game away. It's definitely for Chef Boy. And we've already seen that Chef Boy struggles a little bit on the Volibear in lane against Bright and Bush. So I think it's not the ideal choice to show that. I did like the Maokai pick as well. I mean, at first it looked like Volibear jungle, Maokai in the top lane, but now with those three, you know exactly where they're going. It's going to be a Maokai support, which has, for some strange reason, has caught on popularity in the Coalition League specifically. It's not really caught on in solo queue or in pro play, but we have been seeing it show up in Coalition here. And now you know exactly what all that is. So you're really just looking at this point at the ADC and the mid lane for EXNL. And that actually makes it easier to pinch those pools here for EXNL. On the other hand, 7 men, Kane, Ezreal, Vayne. I don't understand why the double ADC pick here for them, and I'm guessing it's Brighton Bush just looking to sort of run over the top lane, run Volibear over there in that top side, and I hope it works because if not, they're gonna have a lot of problems with a very squishy sort of team here.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? Because yes, you did pick a Vayne into a Volibear, Olaf, and Maokai. The thing is with picking Vayne into those three, they can easily run you down, which could be really, really difficult. And yeah, and there could be a lot of disaster spelling out for 7 men. And if they don't manage to pick up tankier front lines for Ezreal and Vayne, I could very well see this all going south really fast.
For sure, and the bans do come out. 7 men banning out the Caitlyn Galio. EXNL going with the Leona Swain. So they want to stop, and that's both targeted as support. That's Swain for the Ascendant. He's done quite a lot of work on it. Swain did get changed this patch. It was a bit of a mix of a nerf and a buff, and it kind of benefits bot lane support Swain a little bit more, I think, than mid lane. But it is going to be the Kai'Sa Echo lock in for EXNL here. So they're going to deny Alpals the Echo right off the bat.
Yeah, I do like this. They do deny it. They do change up their game plan a little bit, forcing 7 men to pick something else, probably safer. And yeah, and he does pick the Cassiopeia instead of what would have been the Echo.
Yeah, and I think for Alpals, this is nothing new. He has had his Echo denied to him quite a bit during the regular season. He has put up some monstrous games on the Echo, but the Cassiopeia actually for him is one of his higher win rate champions as well. I believe he has won all the games he played the Cassiopeia in. And Cassiopeia usually a scaling champion, but when Alpals plays it, somehow he gets the damage out really early. He's really good at stacking that tier, so he almost always gets a very early conversion from that Archangel staff into the Serap's Embrace, and with that bonus, he's able to pump up damage in the mid game a lot. So it is a good solid pickup. They do have a bit of a front line with the Kayn, with the Nautilus, but with Teeman's style. I'm not expecting to see a tank Kayn. I think it's going to be a damage Kayn. And that means 7 men are going to be very squishy here. So I expect them to either win the early game or end up just losing the late game here without a proper tank.
Yeah. Uh, yeah. As you said, that's one of the things you get when you know your champion that's been taken away from you so well, right? You know the counters, you know what the champion that you play really sucks at playing against. So for I guess as you said, Alpal getting the damage early. He just knows the in and out of Echo. So I guess it's gonna be so good for Alpals if he manages to do the exact same thing again in this match.
Yeah, it's a bit of a difference here between game one and game two. Game one, it was EXNOL running that sort of rather squishy composition that looked to get their hyper carries up and skilling as fast as they could. In this game, we're seeing 7 men with that sort of composition. And on the other hand, it's going to be EXNOL here with a very tanky front line with the Kai'Sa and Echo to do damage. And it's a very balanced team here. The only thing I don't like is sort of the ADC pick. They went with the Kai'Sa, who's not necessarily who doesn't require the most frontline. Kai'Sa, a very mobile ADC, a very independent ADC, not one you need to babysit, not one you need to peel for. Instead, I think I'd have preferred to see something like a Caitlyn, like what they did in Game 1, which was banned to be fair, or something like a Tristana, some hyper-scaling sort of ADC who needs a proper frontline. That being said, they also have a full-on brawler composition. Once they start the fight, Glub Glub on the Echo can look for a flank, look to catch the Vayne, look to catch the Ezreal, catch the Cassiopeia as well. And none of that's going to be able to stop Just a Game running in on the Olaf here.
Yeah, it just Olaf, Ragnarok, and just ignores everything. The downside is he's gonna be popped very, very fast if he goes the full damage build instead of going like Cinderhulk, etc. So Just Game needs to be careful of uh, 7 men definitely. If he gets the wrong thing, gets hooked, gets turned into stone, knocked up, could very well end for disaster for EXNL, and that it could lead to an early game 2 exit.
Yeah, and that would be really rough if they did drop game 2 as well, because then they'd have to pull the reverse sweep to come back in on this one. That being said, we might not have seen EXNOL's games in the semifinals, but the way they won it suggests that they do have quite a significant strength in their laning as well. They kind of just destroyed UOV Nightfall, looked like in lane, so we might be able to see a bit more of that now that they've banned some of 7men's comfort champions. And my eyes are going to be are going to be looking towards that top lane here between Chef Boy and Brighton Bush, because that was where we saw Brighton Bush start to really pop off. Like, he was sort of what helped to turn the tides, and he was able to roam, farm, look for ganks, and he was still even or ahead of Chef Boy here. And now with most likely what looks to be a Vayne in that top lane, it's going to be that much worse, because while a Mordekaiser is bad when he gets ahead, a Vayne who gets ahead in lane can just absolutely dominate and crush, can 1v2 if she gets far ahead enough, especially into an Olaf, into a Volibear as well. The Condemn can't stop the Ragnarok, but Vayne is so mobile, and with that final hour, the invisibility as well is going to make it so difficult for Just a Game to look for a gank post 6 if Brighton Bush is far ahead enough.
Oh yeah, just as you said, Vayne could be very well as a monster. So is Ezreal. Ezreal, even though yes, he was very strong, there was the couple's nerfs back to his item and his runes, but really doesn't change all too much since Ezreal is still a monster. Still, and same with Cassiopeia. So that's 3 champions you have to be careful of. Yes, if you leave Vayne alone for way too long, sure she can run over, but Ezreal, he has outplay potential. Same with Vayne. Cassiopeia can just change the tides of the entire team fight. So the real question is, who's the one that's gonna be coming online first, instead of who's gonna be popping up as soon as possible, and who is gonna be basically inting their lead, or uh, who do we need to watch out for?
For sure, and that's going to put the pressure on EXNOL's bottom side of the map to make sure that they are the ones in the lead there. Assuming you sort of right off that top lane, because Volibear has a rough time into sort of ranged matchups, especially with the Condemn from Vayne able to stop him from engaging, then they're going to have to look at the bot side. That means Glub Glub has to win the mid
Mm-hmm.
lane, or Bears and Opti have to win the 2v2 matchup here. And the issue again is Kai'Sa and Ezreal, both sort of the mana immune champions. They both want to grab the tier. So I am expecting to see Bears pick up the pickaxe if he is going to go that mana immune build. And he needs to sort of bully out Muxtar on the Ezreal before he gets his Mirror Mana completed, as well as his Sheen item, because we saw this matchup. Muxtar played against it was Boat's Kai'Sa last week here, and Boat I think is already one of the better ADCs. I had him as the #1 ADC in the Noxus division, so if Muxtar could survive that and come back late with the Ezreal, I think Bears has his work cut out for him here in game 2 to be able to keep Muxtar down as well.
Yeah, it's just Bolt. He plays very, very well. He's really solid, and just yeah, there isn't much else to say. It's just he plays very, very well, and since you had him at #1 ADC, it's a shame that he didn't play it as well as he could have on a lane that he wasn't meant for.
For sure. I mean, I did think he did a great showing for what he had, but we'll have to see if Vayne gets a better sort of showing here in game two. And with that, we are going to head into a quick intermission break while we wait out the rest of the spec delay here. So we'll be back in about a minute, and we'll see you on Summer's Rift.
When all the darkness falls around, I'll be your saving way out. And with thunder in the night, we'll put our hands up to the sky. So take the flag and raise it high. Take two arms and fortify. We aren't just anyone, we've only just begun. Drop it.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're back onto the Rift. It's game two of the Noxus finals here. EXNL versus 7men. Once again, it's going to be EXNL on the blue side here, and 7men opting for the red side this game. Once again, they liked it in game one. It worked for them, and they're going to continue doing that in game two here.
Yeah. Just both of these teams playing very well, especially 7men. It's just now the pressure's on EXNL, right? Because they haven't been performing as what they were expected to. So the thing is now is how are they gonna play this early game any different or the same? And especially with Glub back, as you said, it's definitely gonna be very interesting to see what is gonna be happening from especially the first 10 minutes in the game.
Yeah, and again, for EXNL, they just sort of need to survive the early bit here in the top side, and they need to win the bottom side. We do see Chef Boy here with the Unsealed Spellbook in the top lane. An interesting choice of summoners here, especially given that just this patch, Unsealed Spellbook got a nerf. The cooldown on it was increased significantly. The first spell change is a full minute later than it used to be, and subsequently, ultimately at the end, after they're fully stacked, I believe it's still about 30 seconds longer than it used to be here. So looks like he's taking it for a defensive sort of summoner so that he has an additional summoner in lane against Brighton Bush. I think the concept's good, but I think this was the wrong patch to try it out on. And we'll have to see how that goes, because I did identify Brighton Bush winning the top lane to be a significant contributor to 7men winning the game quickly. Either that, or they have to stall out till Alpals and Mokstar get a chance to scale up into the late game.
Right. Just Mookstar and Alpals, they definitely have the lane easier, and for Chef Boy, he's definitely gonna have a much harder time playing against into Brighton Bush. So it's definitely not a bad idea to run Unsealed Spellbook, but he's not gonna be getting a lot from it, since you said that Unsealed Spellbook did get that nerf this patch, and it's definitely going to be much harder for Chef Boy to be relevant early on.
For sure, and we do see Glub just punishing Alpals a bit, and this is what he needs to continue doing. Cassiopeia does do a lot of damage, but she does also run out of mana very early. Demon ganking here.
Oh, here comes a gank. The Demon's going to be getting quite a bit of a chunk and bring himself a little bit closer to his transformation.
Yeah, and
And
to a
that's
certain extent, this is sort of the issue with playing against 7 men. Teemin's a very aggressive early jungler, so if they drop themselves a scaling team, they can be safe for the first, say, 5 to 6 minutes. They know that Teemin will likely be aggressive enough to punish any aggression. As long as they don't die in an all-in, Teemin will probably be there shortly to back them up, and that's got to prey on the minds of EXNL here. They need to win their lanes, but they have to be careful of overextending. You saw how badly Glub got punished there.
right. Yeah, it's Glub not respecting team, and they played all season long, and they just, I guess, still haven't done too much research on team, and especially with his aggressive style of jungling, which certainly is not too common.
Yeah, he's probably the most, I think, aggressive jungler now that Jason KB doesn't play in the jungle for Vengeful Reapers here. So, yeah, and you can already see it's deterred the early aggression. Interesting back timing here from Mokstar and the Ascendant. Mokstar just going back to buy a Cull and a pair of boots. I'm surprised he went back that early and did not. Like, usually you see the Ezreal wait for sort of that tier breakpoint where they can buy a tier to start stacking it. That call tells me that Mookstar is not looking to win his lane at all here. So most likely 7 men's bot side is going to be a bit of a wash. Instead, we're going to be seeing more pressure on the mid and top lanes. Instead, Teemin might have to reinforce that bot lane a bit. We'll have to see how that one goes though.
Right, as you said, yeah. Call very, very well if you're trying to scale up for the long term. And since this bot lane is Maokai and Kaisa, it's really, really difficult for them to do anything, especially Nautilus, since he's literally have to be there just to act like a bodyguard. And if they were to try something, Teemin would need his form before anyone else hits 6, and even then, it would be a gamble at best. So it's really, really hard just to like see how this bot lane will be at all.
Yeah, and it's kind of rough for the Nautilus as well. Nautilus is a support that wants to be aggressive, wants to look for and engages. He's not the best support defensively speaking, so that will sort of set them on the back foot. And they did drop the Nautilus, having basically known that they'd be going into a Maokai, so that's a choice that 7 men opted into. That being said, just the game right now, doing a great job. He's already out farming Teemin, and Teemin has not really ganked that much. He did throw one gank into the mid lane, but we're already seeing just the game with the 2 camp advantage, and that just shows you how good just the game is at power farming in the jungle here. He did it on Mastery. He's doing it again on Olaf, and with Olaf, it's really important. Same as Mastery, they're both champions who want to be ahead of the curve. If they have enough gold, they become a monster. They're stat champions. There's very little skill to playing them in that it's mostly just if they're strong enough, they dominate. If they're weak, they become useless. And right now, just the game just trying to power farm before he starts throwing his weight around in ganks.
But yeah, there's nothing wrong with power farming. The only exception is that you don't have any jungle pressure at all. And when that happens, it's sure you might have an Olaf with like 60 CS around 7 minutes. The downside is that your other lanes is going to be suffering quite a bit as long as the enemy jungler just keeps ganking them. And yeah, that's the main thing that's a bad thing about like jungle power farmers. It's just really, really difficult for them to try and do anything.
Yeah, and unfortunately for Teemin here, his team not working with him once again when it comes to trying to sort of set up ganks. We are seeing now, he's looking to this bot lane here. Has to be careful though, it's actually just the game doing the Ocean Drake here, sneaking it on the side, and that is that most valuable first Drake. He gets it, there was no vision whatsoever. Teemin not ready to contest, and now the question is, what's Teemin going to do? He's just waiting here, he's wasting time. He needs to pull the trigger, the engage is coming out.
Here he goes. Yeah, he's gonna be trying to do the slow, and Opti's gonna be dragged back in just to get the first blood onto Teemin. That's gonna be plus 500 for him, and then he's gonna be roaming up. But I'm still gonna say it's not gonna be that worth at all. He wasted around like 20 seconds, maybe 30, and it's basically like the same amount of gold he would have got if he just jungled normally. And Glub going back in and gonna get turned into stone, but Teemin's already on the case. He's getting his form though. He has to be very close now, and just Glove just escaping with the hairs on his cheeks. Just barely.
Yeah, and a really, really close gank, and you can already see that when Just the Game showed up, he was already 6, compared to Team in only level 5 here. So the Ragnarok was available. That means 7 men cannot take that fight under any circumstance. They will lose it. El Pals and Team in already low. And in that bot lane gank, Team in shows that idea that he constantly goes after, which is kills are more important. The early pressure is more important. He gave up Ocean Drake, and I think that was a very good adaptation and call from EXNL there, knowing that most likely Team in would not be in a position to stop the Dragon Take. He would probably be looking for a gank. And what I was saying before that gank was going off was that 7 men's lanes aren't cooperating. His bot and mid lane aren't the strongest lanes, so he's got a bit of problems trying to find kills for those ganks. His top lane, which is the strong lane, and you can already see Brighton Bush almost double Chef Boy's CS here, was constantly shoving. So Chef Boy was never really in a good position to get ganked here. And if that sort of situation happens, then Team In has to force a gank somewhere. It's not as efficient, and Just a Game can afford to just power farm. They might be behind gold right now, but that small gap, 1,000 at 9 minutes, for an Ocean Drake and for basically buying time for your carries to scale up, I think that's worth it, because most of that deficit is sitting in that top lane.
Right, yeah, and just Brighton Bush just farming excellently, and wow, that was an amazing hook, just reading on that E there, and just Glove, it's gonna be like, has to be picture perfect. He wants to escape in the flash. Smite comes through, Glove is getting lower and lower, and the Kano is gonna be coming through, it's just gonna be executing him right there, and Olaf really, really low, and just forced to use flash to get out of there. But here on the bot lane, Mookstar, but not respecting the bot lane at all, and just sacrificing his life. Just not the case that he wanted. But however, lucky for him, the gold did not go onto Kaisa.
Yeah, that just shows you the strength of that Maokai pick here, especially into the Ezreal there. Ezreal, one of the most slippery champions in the game, especially with the Arcane Shift and Flash. Yes, Arcane Shift got nerfed, but like you said, it's only like a 2-second nerf. It's not huge. Use it once to survive, and either you live or you die. But the problem is, Opti on the Maokai, twisted advance is a point and click. You can't dodge that. Once it targets you, it will chase you all the way. And you saw that just Mookstar had no way of getting out. He'll have to be more careful here in future when the Ascendant is roaming. He knows he can't handle the 1v2 now, so not a good choice to just go up that far without his support.
Yeah, certainly. It's really difficult for Mookstar to do anything in the 1v2 lane. I think at this point, I'd probably send Ascendant just to roam around, try to get some picks, and try to boast some flash or summer spells, if possible. As for right now, I say he's actually losing pressure in the lane as time goes on because of Maokai and Kaisa in the lane. It's really, really hard for him to get any sort of pressure at all.
Yeah, and interestingly enough, the Ascendant actually opted to go Ninja Tabbies here instead of the Moby Boots, which signaled what you're saying, that he was wanting to roam and look for pressure in other lanes. The Ninja Tabby tells me that he's not looking to roam, he's looking to either to continue looking for pressure in his lane, or he's just building straight up for the late game against Kaisa, against Olaf. And it's an interesting choice. I'm not sure I'm a huge fan of it. And another interesting choice is Mookstar going with the pickaxe here. He did not start the Tear of the Goddess on Ezreal, which is usually what we see. Because Ezreal has such an easy time stacking it, he often goes for that. Instead, he's going for a pickaxe, and you compare that to Bears, who already has the full Manamune build. That's going to be a really rough bot lane here for 7 men for the near future.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be very, very weird because we don't see quite the aggression as we might have seen now in the top lane. We're going to see Final Arrow or Rush Arrow, whatever it's called. It's going to be coming through Brighton Bush. It's going to be lower and lower and lower. And now Chef Boy is going to be ulting, but not quite being on top of him. Now the Thunder is going to be coming through, and that's going to be a crit. Condemn is going to be pushing him off, and he's barely going to get out. Glove has anything to say for it, but the Flash is going to be coming through. He still has... Oh, that hits the turret, and he gets out from the Chrono Break.
And Brighton Bush tried to play around the turret best he could, and he really tried. It just didn't quite work out. But bot lane action there too.
Bot lane is going to get this depth charge off, but then now it's going to be the counter engage. However, we see just a game getting lower and lower from Teeman. and now it's very low. And Alpaus is gonna find himself one before anything else. And now Moxstar has to be very, very careful. And the send it's lower and lower. Opti may die here, and knowing what, that's gonna be a double kill for Bears.
And that had to be a miscommunication. No way that was a, like, the Ascendant turned around, re-engaged, knowing he was gonna die there. Mookstar was definitely also going to die if he re-engaged that. I think they were waiting for Teemin and Alpels, but you saw that Alpels ran back to the mid lane. Teemin decided to go and I think he was taking a honey fruit. But yeah, the backup wasn't there, and that just ends up giving more kills to Bears and Opti. If there's a lane that you have to be careful of, it's precisely that bot lane of Bears and Opti taking over the game here, because they are the strongest position lane to do so.
Yeah, I don't know what Ascendant was trying to do there. He was so low. At that point, you might as well just run, right? Because you might as well just give away your own life for free gold, and you really don't get anything off of that at all.
Yeah, and 7 men were in the lead. They had themselves a sizable start. They had a good start, and now they've kind of thrown it away with giving 2 kills in the bot lane. Topside, Brighton Bush, sort of their shining star here for them, also ended up going down to Glub there. And that means that now 7 men are going to be a bit on the back foot, especially going into the mid game here, where Ezreal is going to be at his weak phase. He just finally completed the Manamune, but it's still stacking. He doesn't have a Sheen item. You look at the top side, Brighton Bush not yet completed the Blade of the Ruin King either, whereas you look at EXNL here, and they are ready to go. You've got the Proto Belt built already, and they are going to now fight. Looks like a full 4v4, 5v4 breaking out, in 5v5 in the Dragon Pit.
Yeah, that's going to be Olaf in the backline, just shredding through everyone, but Justin Game and Teemin is going to be swapping sides actually now. Wow, EXNL is very, very low now. They're on the run, but it is a 3v4. It's going to be very, very rough for them. And they're all going back in and just instantly bursted by each other. But Alpalis gets himself a triple kill. Will he be able to get a quadra kill here? And it looks like Shepwood is going to deny it.
And this is how we know we're in the Noxus division. Incredible fights, constant brawling between the two teams. A kill a minute benchmark acquired here in game 2. That was a great fight there. 7 men. They got the teleport there for Chef Boy, started that one off, got there before Brighton Bush, and you can see that sort of mid-game strength they have. They've got the better sort of mid-game fight here. They've got a bit more AoE, they've got the better power spikes, and that's why they were winning. They were all extremely low, but they were winning. And you saw how healthy Alpals was, how healthy Brighton Bush were when they went into that bush. Great call from EXNL to sort of camp that bush as 4. Unfortunately though, Alpals just able to pump the damage out, and that's why I'm saying the Cassiopeia, when Alpalis plays it, somehow it just seems to do more damage in the mid game than you'd think would come out of a Cassiopeia normally. Now has completed the Archangel Staff as well. He's 4-0-2. And before, when we saw Glub bullying Alpalis, I don't think we're going to continue seeing that. Right now, I think we're going to be looking at EXNL's bot lane to be their sort of strength, the area where they're going to be looking for advantages here.
Right. Just Alpalis, he's definitely the key of this game right now. He's definitely holding 7 men together right now. It's gonna be really, really hard for EXNL to try and basically just kill all of 7 men. Just really, really hard for EXNL to do anything this game, as long as Alpalis is still ahead of everyone right now.
And we're going to see Shelly dropped in the top lane once again. The immediate drop into that top side. They're looking... There's no plates here, so I'm not even sure why they immediately did that, but they are looking for a collapse here onto Brighton Bush.
Right. This Brighton Bush is going to be very low. He's going to be trying to run. He did activate Final Hour. He just barely lives. And Rift Herald is still on 1 HP.
Yeah, they do manage to get the first third of the game though, and despite being up in kills, EXNL is actually down significantly in gold here. A lot of that coming from that top lane CS discrepancy, so having gotten first third helps to close that gold lead significantly. They're down to the touching distance now. It's only about a 500, 600 gold differential between the two teams, so definitely much, much closer right now. And now, they did leave Alpalis alone, and that means that they're going to even up the turret score almost right away here. So that gold lead kind of still significant, 1,000.
And here's it go. Mookstar getting lower and lower. That's the exhaust. Bears snipes him, extend it, pushes him back, saying you're not gonna be running away. But then a flash says otherwise. And that's just unfortunate for Mookstar right there. It's really unfortunate.
Yeah, and right now you can already see, before it was Mookstar could not handle the 1v2, now he can't even handle the 2v2. And that's a problem here. And somewhat expected from the Ezreal till he starts getting the Sheen item. He now has the Sheen built, has the Stinger as well, so he's looking for the Trinity Force Ezreal, not the Iceborne Ezreal here. So he will have a nice spike of damage when that's completed, but until that point, he will not be able to beat Bears in that 1v1. And Opti, like I said, with that point and click initiate, it's just not a good lane. You probably want to swap him away and have him go somewhere else. But meanwhile, Chef Boy just pounding away on this mid lane turret here.
Yeah, it's super hard, man. There isn't a lot of things for you to do there. Just not at all. I don't see a way for EXNL to get back into this, since it's so hard. Even if Bears is ahead, I don't see Bears just instantly bursting out palace at all. I don't see Just Game getting into the backline as quick as he's think he's going to be, and that's mainly the reason why I think why 7-man is just so dominant right now.
Yeah, and it is definitely going to be a bit of a tougher matchup as the game goes on for sure, because 7-men's carries will continue scaling up. But again, they have a bright spot in that Bears is 4-1 and 4 right now, so he's able to at least match Alpals. The only issue is trying to catch and CC down Alpals. They have the possibility, no cleanse for Bears this game here, means that he has to be careful though. We might see a QSS come out eventually. They have enough initiate to potentially catch Alpals. The only question is if Alpals will misposition and allow them to do that. The other alternative is just have Just the Game run into the backline while the rest of the team's shredding the front. We'll have to see how that comes out. For now, I think the best chance with them simply is just let Bears scale. But Alpal's getting caught out.
Yeah, it's just getting caught on a glove, and just getting melted instantly. Now Chef Boy in the back, he's gonna be trying to turn this all around now. He's the one that's gonna be just out of position. Yes, all over. That's gonna be a flash from his team, and that's gonna be possibly glove down here as the ult comes through. However, Ascendant is gonna be the one to fall for 7-men. That's gonna be in the place of glove. As we see here, it's gonna be very difficult for them to try and do it. At least anything right now.
Oh, a great knock up to stop this stuff.
Yeah, that's gonna be a killing spree for Bears, but it's gonna be super hard for them if they don't shut down Alpals soon.
And that was kind of their best chance there to kill Alpals. Alpals burnt the Petrifying Gaze really early onto Glub there, so he did not actually have it for the rest of the fight. I'm not sure if that was communicated to the rest of the team there, but they could potentially have killed him. Unfortunately, they don't manage to. Bears does manage to pick up a kill, but meanwhile, Brighton Bush was just split pushing top. He's got a ton of damage down, and now he's getting collapsed on here.
Right, and as we see now, Chef Boy on Brighton Bush.
Oh!
And that he's barely lived. Just if he didn't put that E down, he would have died, and he keeps himself at 1-0-6.
And EXNL firing back. This is what they needed to sort of do here. Find the picks, find the opportunities to come back in. That being said, they might be sacrificing the Cloud Drake here for it. And single Cloud Drake's not a big deal, but you could potentially get up to 3. And they, unfortunately for Just the Game, couldn't quite find the entry in to steal that one. So that's going to be a 10% cooldown reduction. It's huge for 7-men. All their ultimates are big ticket ultimates here. It's not like small things like we saw in game 1 here. It's big ones here. The weakest is probably Final Hour, and even that, giving the invisibility to Brighton Bush, is going to be key in team fights to continuously dodge out skill shots and avoid getting killed.
Right, yeah, as you said, it's a rough one early on. It's just not just everybody that's coming online now. It's just personally, I think it's gonna be definitely a much harder one for 7 men to try and do anything, even though Alpao's it's 4-0 and 3 sitting there and doing a lot of damage. On the other side, you'd have Bears as with the Hill Blitz doing massive amount of damage and so slowly transitioning into the Nashor's Tooth, into the AP style version of Kaisa, which isn't bad, might I add. But you now have that Volibear that you need to be careful of. You have Just a Game who's able just to slow and do quite a bit of damage regardless of his build now being at this point in the game, and Opti super annoying as a support. So the real question is now, how are they gonna get this fixed? And now Bear's gonna get caught out, and now Team Min is gonna have to use his ult just to transfer 1 kill to 7 men, and now EXNL is gonna have to get out of there, and for their own lives, for the better or for worse.
Yeah, great catch by Teemin there onto Bears of all people. That is a 400 gold bounty going as well over to Teemin, and that's sort of Teemin's role come the late game. A lot of times he picks very early game sort of junglers here, and come the late game he transitions into sort of a cruise missile. He's got a single target he tries to take down, but now fight breaking out around Baron.
Yeah, just Opti just getting an excellent pick there now. That's going to be a double kill. They're going to be running them down instantly. Alpao's, I'm not sure what he can do this time around, but that's going to be a lot of damage coming out from Chef Boy. However, Brighton Bush managed to pick one up before he falls right there.
And Baron continues to be the biggest bait on the map here. 7 men, I think they thought they had it. Like, they had the advantage there, and the numbers advantage, they go for it. But they forget that their ADC is not very strong. Glub getting nailed over the wall here. Mookstar trying to 1v3.
That is so rough, and that maybe it still won't be, and he will fall for his own mistakes.
And I'm just a little lost for words right now at that last, that arcane shift from Mookstar over the wall. Felt like he was in despair and decided to end his life there because the bear was already down. There was no need to go over. He ends up giving a free kill. And normally, this is sort of where Ezreals are supposed to be at their strongest point, that sort of 22 to 30 minute mark when they've got the Muramana fully stacked. They've got the Trinity Force as well now, and this is where they start kiting around, putting a lot of poke damage, but he's so far behind Bears. And I look over to Bears, he's got the Manamune, actually not fully stacked yet, but he's got the Guinsoo's Rage Blade already completed. The components for the Nash's Tooth as well. We'll probably see that on the Nyx's back. I think actually he's sitting in base waiting for himself to get just enough gold to pick that one up. So that's 3 completed items. That's going to mean Bears is going to be stronger in any team fight. And right now, EXNL not afraid to pull the trigger. You saw at Baron, they were down a man. They don't care. They just go running in.
Oh, here comes Keeman. That's going to be quite a bit. And he made just die here. That's excellent from Opti. And just unable to do anything else. Just, I don't know what your positioning there was. Yeah, it's really difficult just to know what Teemin was trying to achieve there.
Yeah, Teemin going aggressive.
Here's a die. Yeah, Glove just instantly just killing him.
Yeah, and that was the concern in draft, that there wasn't enough tank on the side of 7men.
Yeah, now Brighton Bush and just everyone just falling one by one. Oh yeah, you may have a lot of damage, but EXNL is saying we have the dive potential. We can just kill you straight up. We have the Echo. We have Chef Boy to negate all the turrets. And just we're not scared of you now. We basically end all of this, and you can't do anything. That's just not gonna be able to get Glub from this.
And a large part of that also came from the fact that Alpao's was not there, but he is here now.
Yeah, Alpao's now doing a lot of damage. Now Opti's getting chunked slowly and slower, but not gonna be able to pick up the 6th, but instead that's gonna be the 5th for Teemin.
Yeah, and I mean, Opti was dead, right? He knew it. Turn around, buy the rest of your team time to get away. That's all you can do. And Noxus division right now, you can see the brawls breaking out. Both teams overextending constantly here, basically. You had Alpal's not with his team. His team gets caught out. Now, on the side of EXNL, they overstay their welcome. And they end up getting hunted down. They lose Opti as well. Numbers advantage now going to 7 men. They can siege up, look to get a turret. And a siege situation is where Muxtar on the Ezreal can start shining. But they can't because they don't have all 5 once again. It's a 4v4, and they won't win a 4v4 right now.
Just there isn't a much for him to do at all. At this point, Alpaus is basically at his power spike. He's really not going to get that 1v9 outplay potential as he did before until he gets his entire build. And now for Bears, he does have the potential. He has his 3 items as we discussed earlier. He has the potential of just solo carrying the game if they just play a little bit smarter and rotating out when they needed to.
Yeah, and right now, for 7 men, it's just a question of stalling. Not for the carries, but for the supports.
Oh, Muxtar? Just rewinds times there. Just unable to get that kill.
Yeah, and what I was saying before that fight broke on the bot side, which Muxtar able to survive there, was that right now, for 7 men, they actually need to wait for the Ascendant to scale up, because they need a tank right now. The only way they win fights is if they kite backwards right now, with Alpels and the Petrifying Gaze buying them time to output the damage while Muxtar just fires while running backwards. But the Ascendant, he needs to be that front line, and he's so squishy. Look at him just get run down here.
Yeah, he's just not going to be able to do anything. Even though he has the hook, it's not going to happen. And it's basically impossible for a support just to farm minions, since they weren't meant to spy or farm minions at all. It's really, really tough for him.
Yeah, a bit of a catch-22. Supports need the assists, but what do you do when you're behind and you need to scale up? Because you can't find the assists. And now they're kiting back. It's 5v3. 7 men are not going to be able to hold this really well. And with the engage potential from Opti and Just a Game, there you go.
Yeah, that's quite a bit of damage now. They could turn this around, but they don't have quite the range and damage output as they might have wanted. Just, yes, they might have rotated out already. They're pushing against them, but they aren't able to actually just find anything at this point because the bot lane for 7 men is just way too behind right now.
Yeah, that being said, they basically got off as lightly as they could with that push. That was a 5v3. They do manage to find one on the exit as well. They do lose the inhibitor for it, but that honestly will respawn. And having an inhibitor down means that at least they'll have minions coming in. They're not in the worst position. They didn't give up too many dragons in the early game as well. So they do have a bit more time to scale up. And that's what they need to continue doing. You're already seeing how much damage Alpals can put up. Brighton Bush as well. Now with the Phantom Dancer completed, that's 3 completed items. It's just Muxtar right now. He's building a Death Dance. He's getting tankier more than straight damage. So they're pretty much okay on the damage front for now. They just need to make sure they don't get caught. And as the games go longer and longer, we have seen 7 men sometimes turn fights in the late game. They had no business winning just because if it gets late enough, it becomes a game on a knife's edge. It's a 50-50. Either team could really take it. 7 men do have the better late game carries, but EXNL has a better composition. We'll have to see how that goes. It's the Baron dance now being started up by both teams.
Definitely just the dance of both teams. They don't want to risk anything right now, and if they certainly don't need to risk anything. They don't need to force an engage, etc. But then again, they have the option to. They have all the CC chains that they may have or may need. It's just the question of execution now. It's just yes, Ascendant, you can go and try to start something up, but it's very, very hard for you to do anything against this EXNL composition. And now Ascendant's gonna be actually bursting down quite a bit. Now teammate in the backline is gonna be melted down instantly thanks to Bears, and now it's gonna be very, very rough for 7 men to try and do anything now Bright and Bush in the backline and being forced to flash away. Now Glub Glub is going to be instantly killing Bright and Bush. And now Moxer's the only one alive, trying to save his team from a 1-1. And now it's gonna be very, very tough, but it seemed like it's not gonna happen at this moment. And this might just be the game for EXNL to bring it back into a tied series.
Yeah,
Or, you know,
it looks like they're gonna back out there. They're a little low on health. The Ascendant just came back up. So did Teemin, and Teemin does a lot of damage still on that Kayn. So they're gonna back out, but things are firmly in their grasp. They're gonna get the second Cloud Drake for themselves as well. Even more cooldown reduction. And that fight was just brilliantly played by EXNL. You saw how many low health bars there were there. Looked like Teemin did manage to get the flag, but he didn't get the kill off. And then instead he got bursted down. The Ascendant soon to follow as well. And without a frontline tank, you can see how hard it is for 7 men. In the picks and bans, we did talk a bit about how their win condition is Bright and Bush dominates the top lane. And while he got ahead, he didn't dominate it. Chef Boy managed to bounce back. He's still down a lot of CS. He's been completely flamed Horizon here. You can see that from the gold, considering how far up his team is, he's still down about 1,000 gold here in this top lane. So hasn't fully recovered yet. But he got tanky enough to do his job. Whereas Bright and Bush, as the carry, the onus is on you to dominate the lane instead. And without that front line, they just can't get past Opti. They can't get past just the game and Chef Boy as well. And so they can never initiate. And if you don't initiate, then you just have to wait to get initiated on. And that's not working well for them.
Right, yeah, that's mainly just the weakness of 7-man's roster. You have 2 ADCs, as we said earlier, and just Glub Glub getting absolutely annihilated in terms of his health bar. And now Teemin is gonna use Umbro Trespass, but it's not gonna be quick enough for him to actually try and steal. He still has like 10 seconds on it. Now, if anything, it's gonna be a very close one indeed. 2K, 1K is gonna be in the favor of 7 men. Actually steals it, and now Alpal is just getting a double petrifying gaze. And now it's gonna be very, very rough. Bright in the bush in the backline just doing a lot of damage, and now what actually happening? It's just there's minions in the base, and the bears just dies. But Opti is just able to get out, and now it's just time in terms of minions now. That's doing a lot of damage, but thank goodness for the inhibitor respawn, or else this could have went very, very bad.
Yeah, everything just going 7 men's way right here. The timing of the inhibitor respawn, the fact that EXNL basically struggled at Baron. Baron gives, it takes away as well. Baron was what cost 7 men their chance to come back into the game. And now Baron has given them another chance to get back in here. EXNL splitting focus, and we saw the early smite come out from just a game. It left the Baron at about 200 health, dropped down to 90. Teemin came out just in time to be able to snag that one, and that's great for 7 men. It just put a massive pause timer on the game, and I jinxed it. They actually do hit a full-on pause here, just as I say that. So we get a pause both in terms of progression of the game as well as a flat-out pause in game. And that gives us time to sort of take stock of what happened in that fight, because EXNL split focus. That was what cost them there. When they saw Teemin come in, they should basically have just decided whether they want to burst Baron down or turn around and fight the fight, because Teemin could not smite while he was using his ultimate into, I believe it was in just the game at that point in time, and Teemin went too early. So if they had just waited till Teemin came out, they could have killed Teemin, secured the Baron. Instead, they decide to split and try and fight, and that leaves Teemin and just the game to a 50-50. And like I was just saying a couple minutes before, when it goes to a 50-50, 7 men have shown the ability to come in clutch and win 50-50s. And with that, suddenly 7 men back in the lead in terms of gold. They've got themselves a Baron buff as well, and can look to sort of push out, try and make something happen here. Even if they fail to do so, they should be in a good position to pick up the next Cloud Drake. And as the game goes longer and longer here, we're going to start seeing full builds come out. Unlike the fact that we're seeing the Executioners come up from Mookstar here, that's going to be huge to cut some of the healing from just the game here, from Opti, from Bears, and also from Chef Boy a little bit as well. And we're starting to see the death cap now going to come out from Alpals. That means that if Glub Glub and Bears ever get caught by that miasma, they're going to be instantly dead. Brighton Bush building something with that Giant's Belt. Maybe a Frozen Mallet. We'll have to see what comes out, but a bit more tankiness means that he'll be able to survive the fights a bit better. And in the meantime, the Ascendant finally completing the Gargoyle Stoneblade. It's been quite a bit here, and he finally completed that item. He is still... he was actually, before that fight, 3 levels down from Opti. He's now only 1 level behind. That's a huge comeback right now. And we might actually see 7 men able to start putting up a bit more of a fight here with the Baron buff on their side.
Yeah, just definitely see why would Frozen Mallet help Vayne. Just definitely will survive a lot longer. Definitely won't be hating it at all, but at this point of the game, I think it's just more about splitting and just slowly picking off objectives instead of just going for full blown out team fights. And if you do, you have to play extremely well now. And so if the case ever does happen that you need to take an enormous or major team fight, it's gonna have to be very, very, very clean of a team fight, or else it could basically mean the end for your game.
Okay, and we've now got both teams back here. The pause is over. Looks like the game was running a bit longer than expected, so I believe it was somebody on the side of 7 men had to go take a quick leak. That was what that pause was about. It's done and over. We are back into the game, and hey, maybe that helps to reset the mentality for 7 men. Helps them to win the next couple fights. We'll have to see. And the more important question right now is, what are they going to do with the Baron buff? All the inner turrets are still standing for EXNL. That is standing gold with the Baron buff, but I think EXNL, 7 men, pardon me, is a bit scared to over push right now because they're not confident they win the full 5v5, even with the Baron buff here. It's not as strong as it used to be in terms of team fighting, more for sieging. So we'll have to see what they opt to do. As Teeman now going down, they're splitting 4-1 here.
They're really not pushing it up at all. It's just they're just letting Baron just push in themselves. Yeah, just not really much is happening, and as for now, I guess we're just gonna be waiting on the last Cloud Drake potentially. So, yes, they are more than a couple of goes down, but they're up in gold for 7 men. Now they're gonna be slowly trying to take this turret down. Yes, the Chef Boy is in the back, but as for right now, it's not the best of choice. They aren't checking their blind spots, they aren't checking everything, but it's very, very tough for them to do anything at all. And if they are going to be trying to, it's got, as I said earlier, it's gotta be picture perfect and very, very clean.
And they did actually manage to get 1 turret down with that Baron buff. Baron buff has worn out now, just in time pretty much for that Cloud Drake. We are seeing Brighton Bush and Alpals recalling here. I'd be interested as to why they'd be doing that. Alpals does not have enough gold here to buy any more items. Brighton Bush as well just went back to buy the ward, it looks like. So they're setting up now for this Cloud Drake. And now without Baron buff, this could very well be the setup for the 5v fight, which decides the game right here.
Yeah, very well could be, but also they could just end up giving it, but they are very, very thirsty for this dragon. They are gonna start bursting it down, but not quite. That's gonna be the Cloud Soul for them. Opti in the front line getting bursted down very, very low, and now 7 men just playing this team fight extremely well. Now Chef Boy is gonna be absolutely melted, slowly and slowly. Brighton Bush picking up his 5th. And now Bears being forced to Zhonya's, and this may be the game.
Yeah, perfect timing on that Mystic shot there from Muxtar to end Bears. The junglers going at it. We're seeing a whole set of 1v1 duels. Can Teeman win this one? Yes, he can. They do manage to get the ace here. And 7 men turning the tides here. That Drake, they did lose the Cloud Soul, but Cloud Soul is not the end of the world for them. It's great on Olaf, I'll give you that. He can run that much faster with Ragnarok Pop, but it does not help you respawn faster. And right now, their base getting cracked open. The inhibitor is going to go down. Opti and Glub Glub will be coming back up shortly here in just a couple of seconds, but they lose a lot for that fight. And while 7men couldn't close it, it does now show that 7men has at the point where their hyper carries are getting strong enough that they can start winning fights in open ground. Alpels is getting tanky enough here with that Rylai's and Leandry's here. He's actually built himself quite a bit of health. He's got lifesteal as well, and there is no healing cut from the side of EXNL aside from that one Bramble Vest on Chef Boy. And Alpels isn't going to be hitting Chef Boy. He's not going to get his healing cut, and he's going to be able to sustain through fight. So now they start having a proper sort of pseudo tank. The Ascendant getting tankier bit by bit, still not super tanky, but he's getting there. Brighton Bush in that top side, that Mallet also coming in really handy there. You saw that people had problems closing onto him. They don't have a ton of instant gap closes, and they're reserving a lot of that for Alpels and Muxtar. So now Opti has a choice. Who's he going to jump on? Brighton Bush or Muxtar? Both of them have escapes. Both of them have protection now with the Death's Dance completed as well. And it's going to be the Oblivion Orb coming out for Alpels here. So he's going to hurt even more because there's not a ton of magic resistance on the side of EXNL.
Yeah, it's just now they're going to be setting up for Baron, but EXNL is already set up for it. But they do have the Scuttle Vision, so if they try to do something sneaky, if they would try to, it's not gonna work. They have the Blue Ward, which they just found out they are stacking a bush, and now they have minions pushing in. They have a lot of various elements that they need to be careful of. You have Brandon Bush, now just at that point just can 1v1 or 1v9 the entire enemy team. You have Muxtar that does basically hits like a truck, and you have Alpels that actually does hit like a semi-truck. Now the thing is that will 7men plays even more like clean, or will EXNL actually just put the final nail in the coffin?
And that's the problem. We've gone past the 40-minute mark. Welcome to Noxus Division, where everything becomes a 50-50 beyond the 40-minute mark. And even worse right now is the fact that the only major objective on the map is Baron. We've already seen both teams throw once at Baron here, and it might very well be Baron that decides the game. And instead of who gets Baron, it's a question of who throws at Baron here. We'll have to see, because right now it's looking like 7men have the inside track. They're clearing out vision, but they have to be careful. Brighton Bush is not with them, and Baron hurts right now. Muxtar taking a bit of damage, will be fine, and they're just fighting over vision for now.
Yeah, very smart, because you want to get the vision and see what is happening. Now Glove could be in a very dangerous spot. That's gonna be a lot of damage to Ascendant, but now however Brighton Bush wins his 1v1, now up in the front line is gonna be a death scene. And this is gonna be very bad. There's no way, surely no way they win a 3v5 on this, right? So this might as well be very dead and the dream for EXNL. And yes, that will be the Baron for 7men. Now Glove is gonna be instantly bursted. That level 7 really doesn't mean anything, and now that doesn't, now just a game just will not be able to do anything. And now the final tally of this game is going to be 28-27 for the side of 7men.
Yeah, and just what a reversal here. 7men, I mean, they were only a bit in the lead in the mid game when they attempted that first Baron. EXNL managed to take that, and they pushed. And this is not a situation where it was a question of one team underperforming here. Both teams played amazingly well. It just so happened that unfortunately the game stretched long, and 7men has the better skill in comp.
Yeah, just 7men played it very nice. They delayed it as long as possible. They had a couple of rough spots, but ultimately they were able to come back, and they were able to just bring back everyone in the final game or final fight, especially Vayne and Ezreal.
Yeah, finally seeing that Ezreal come online, and you can see Muxtar just barely edged out in terms of damage over Alpels there, both of them up in the 38,000 range. As for EXNL, Bears almost doubling, or sorry, about 50% more than the next closest person on his team there. Did try his hardest to output that damage, to try and carry his team. Just unfortunately wasn't quite able to do so. at the end of all of that work for his team. It's just a matter of getting outskilled. And so for EXNL, I think the issue they're having a little bit right now is sort of just trying to execute their composition and find a way back in. I thought their composition was really solid. They just can't afford to let the game scale this long. So that being said, I think maybe they pick a bit more late game insurance. Give Bears something like a Vayne, like a Tristana, like a Caitlyn that can hyper carry into the back end a little safer here. And for 7 men, I don't think the Vayne pick actually really worked out for them that well in the top lane. Yes, Bryden Bush just absolutely shredded down Opti in that last fight. But to be fair, if he had been on a tank, they probably wouldn't have gotten to that stage because the Ascendant not being tanky enough was a huge part of their problems throughout the mid to late game here.
Right, yeah, just that's the thing is really, really hard for him. Just man, just there wasn't much to say. Yeah, you may have picked Vayne, one with a double ADC comp. It's just right now it's not like their best form of themselves, and just if they keep playing like this, EXNL definitely has a chance of coming back.
Yeah, and we'll have to see how that goes because now EXNL's back is up against the wall here. They've got nowhere left to run. They are down in the series 0-2 here. That being said, game 2 did look very promising. We might see the reverse sweep, and with that, we are going to head to a quick intermission break while we set up for said game 3, where 7 men look to buck the trend and get themselves a clean 3-0 sweep here.